Unaware she owned the company signing their $1 billion deal, they poured wine on her. "It's just a dress," Lori laughed, watching the red wine drip from Sheila's white sleeve onto the marble. The crowd snickered, thinking they knew who held the power. They didn't, because the woman standing in the stain wasn't a guest. She was the owner, and she was about to make them pay. Welcome back, family. If you're settled in and ready for this journey, subscribe now and tell me in the comments, where in the world are you watching from? Because tomorrow I've got another incredible story waiting for you. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming. Now, let's begin.
Did she just pour wine on me? The words cut through the music like glass. 300 guests froze mid-laughter inside the Willard Intercontinental's crystal room, champagne flutes hovering in the air, as the crimson liquid cascaded down the silk sleeve of Sheila Hughes's custom white gown. It was silent for half a breath. Then came the snickers. Lori, the woman holding the half-empty wineglass, blinked with fake innocence. "Oh my God, I am so sorry. Guess my hand slipped." Her companion, Tom, chuckled. The kind of laugh that wasn't humor, it was dominance. "Careful, Lori. These charity events attract all kinds these days." The sting wasn't from the wine. It was from the words. Sheila looked down at her stained sleeve, then up, meeting Lori's eyes, calm, unblinking. Her voice didn't rise, it dropped, soft but razor sharp. "You should really be more careful," she said. "Accidents have a way of coming back." The crowd tittered, uncomfortable. Someone coughed. A photographer froze, torn between capturing the moment and pretending it hadn't happened. Lori laughed again, shrill, performative. "Oh, please, sweetheart, it's just a dress." Just a dress. The dress that cost less than a single minute of Sheila's net worth. The dress she wore tonight for one reason: to see who would underestimate her. Bruce from the event staff rushed over with napkins. "Ma'am, let me—" Sheila raised her hand. "It's fine." Then, slowly, she turned to Lori. "I'll send you the dry cleaning bill." Lori smirked. "I doubt you could afford the postage." Laughter rippled again, tight, cruel, the sound of people who thought they knew the hierarchy of power in that ballroom. What they didn't know, what would make them all choke later, was that the woman standing silently in front of them, red wine dripping onto the marble floor, owned the company signing their billion-dollar deal tonight. But Sheila didn't tell them that. Not yet. She just smiled, the kind of smile that made people nervous without knowing why. Her assistant, waiting discreetly by the bar, caught her gaze. Sheila nodded once. Plans were already moving. As the orchestra swelled again, Lori tossed her hair and turned back to her glass. "Don't take it so personally. Some people just don't belong at events like this." Sheila's voice was barely a whisper, but it carried like a promise. "Maybe not, but I own them."
"Did you see her face?" Lori whispered loudly, just enough for nearby guests to hear. "I swear, if I'd known she'd react like that, I'd poured red and white." Tom grinned. "Don't feel bad, babe. Not everyone can buy elegance." Their audience snickered, but they didn't notice the woman in the corner, watching them, still, calm, and calculating. A chime sounded from the stage. The announcer's voice filled the room. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Harrison & Vail CEO Thomas Benton and lead partner Lori Benton as they finalize the official signing of the $1.2 billion infrastructure contract." Applause thundered through the ballroom. Lori and Tom basked in it, waving to cameras as they approached the podium. From the back, Sheila's assistant Renee slipped her a small black folder. "Everything's ready, Miss Hughes." Sheila nodded. "Wait for my cue." As Lori began her speech, her voice oozed confidence. "This partnership marks a turning point for our company and our investors. Tonight we—" The ballroom doors swung open. Every head turned. A woman stepped in, tall and poised, her heels clicking across the marble floor. The room went quiet. It was Sheila, but not the version they'd seen before. Gone was the humility, the soft tone. Her posture was commanding. Every movement deliberate. She walked straight to the podium. Lori blinked, confused and slightly amused. "I'm sorry, can we help you?" Sheila smiled. "Yes, you can finish signing the paperwork." Tom frowned. "Excuse me, ma'am, this is a private, corporate—" "Correction!" Sheila interrupted, sliding the black folder across the podium. "It's my corporate event, and as of this morning, Hughes Capital Holdings completed acquisition of Harrison & Vale's parent company." The silence that followed was absolute. Lori's face went pale. "That's impossible!" Sheila tilted her head. "You should read the fine print in your merger documents. I own 52% of the controlling interest." Tom stammered. You're lying." She nodded to Renee, who opened the folder and displayed the signed legal documents. "No, I'm introducing myself properly." The camera zoomed in. Journalists leaned forward. Lori's wine glass slipped from her hand, shattering against the floor. Sheila smiled slightly, eyes calm but unrelenting. "Now, where were we? Yes, you were saying something about people who don't belong at events like this." The crowd gasped, half in awe, half in disbelief. Sheila continued, voice like silk over steel. "Here's the thing, Mrs. Benton. I don't attend events like this. I own them." Ever been underestimated so badly that you almost felt sorry for the people doing it? Remember, staying quiet doesn't mean you're weak. It just means you're waiting for the right time to speak. The news broke before dawn. Black woman buys out Harrison & Vale, stuns Wall Street. Mystery investor revealed as Sheila Hughes, CEO of Hughes Capital. The woman who turned humiliation into a $1 billion checkmate. By the time Sheila's car pulled through the gates of Evermay Estate, reporters were already stationed outside, cameras flashing through the iron fence. Her assistant Renee scrolled through her phone, shaking her head. "You're trending everywhere. Half the country wants to make you a role model. The other half wants to tear you apart." Sheila sighed. "That's how you know you're doing something right." Renee smiled nervously. "You really don't care what people think?" She turned, her expression steady. "I used to, until I realized most people only clap for you if they think you're beneath them." Still, something about last night lingered. The sound of laughter, the humiliation that preceded her triumph, the look on Lori's face when the truth hit. It should have felt satisfying, but deep down, Sheila wasn't celebrating. She was remembering. 15 years earlier, she'd attended her first networking gala as a server. She'd carried trays of champagne, smiling as people brushed past her without seeing her. That night, a man spilled his drink on her uniform and laughed. She'd cried in the service hallway, not because of the stain, but because she felt invisible. That night, she made a promise. One day, they'll have to see me. Last night, they had. But the question gnawed at her. Was that victory or vengeance? By mid-afternoon, the story had ignited the city. Talk shows debated her motives. Online forums argued whether she was an icon or a corporate opportunist. But while the world speculated, Lori and Tom Benton were plotting. Inside their glass-walled office overlooking K Street, Lori slammed a stack of papers onto the desk. "We can't just sit here while she takes everything. My father built this firm." Tom rubbed his temples. "Technically, he sold it. Sheila's acquisition was legal." Lori scoffed. "Please, don't tell me you've gone soft. That woman embarrassed us in front of the entire DC elite." Tom hesitated. "Maybe we deserved it." She spun toward him. "Excuse me?" He sighed. "We treated her like a joke, Lori. Maybe she earned that win." Lori's eyes flashed. "You think this is about earning? It's about power, and I'm not giving it up." Her phone buzzed. She looked at the screen.
An unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. A smooth voice on the other end said, "Mrs. Benton, I hear you're looking to expose Sheila Hughes." Lori's pulse quickened. "Who is this?" "Let's just say," the voice purred, "I have information about her past, something the public would love to hear." Meanwhile, back at Evermay Estate, Sheila sat by the library window, sipping tea and watching the rain streak the glass. She'd spent her life hiding her scars, the years of poverty, the nights of hunger, the eviction notice still folded in her Bible. If someone dug deep enough, they'd find what she'd worked so hard to bury. Renee entered quietly. "You have a meeting request." Sheila looked up. "From who?" Renee hesitated. "Lori Benton." For a moment, the air in the room changed. "She wants to meet?" "She said it's about making peace." Sheila's lips curved into a quiet, knowing smile. "No, Renee. It's about making headlines. Ever notice how some people only apologize when the world's watching? Forgiveness is powerful, but discernment is survival. Comment below. Do you believe every betrayal deserves a second chance? The next evening, the Willard Intercontinental was quieter than usual. Just a few tourists drifting through the lobby, unaware of the storm about to unfold in one of the private lounges. Sheila Hughes sat at a small corner table, her composure immaculate, tailored navy suit, pearl earrings, a calm smile that concealed suspicion. Across from her, Lori Benton arrived 10 minutes late, flanked by her husband Tom. She was all charm, the kind that hides poison under gloss. "Sheila," Lori said brightly, sliding into the seat opposite, "I'm so glad you agreed to meet. I wanted to clear the air. Things got tense." Sheila's gaze was polite but cool. "You mean when you publicly humiliated me, or when I bought your company?" Lori gave a tight laugh. "Fair point." She reached for her wineglass, a symbolic act that didn't go unnoticed. "Let's just say I was emotional. We've both had our moments." Sheila leaned forward slightly. "Then let's be direct. What do you really want, Lori?"
Lori's smile faltered just a fraction. Then she opened her purse, pulled out a manila envelope, and placed it on the table. "I think this belongs to you." Sheila didn't touch it. "What's that?" Lori's tone softened, too soft. "It's your past, or at least what the media will call it once they see what's inside." Tom looked uncomfortable. "Lori, maybe this isn't—" She silenced him with a glance. Sheila's jaw tightened. "Go on." Lori slid the envelope closer. "Records from 2003, arrest documents, your name, Sheila Johnson, before you changed it. Petty theft, trespassing. You were 19, homeless, desperate." The world seemed to stop. The only sound was the clinking of a spoon from a nearby table. Sheila didn't move. She just stared at the envelope. "I'm not here to judge. In fact, I admire how far you've come. But the board might not appreciate learning their new chairwoman once stole food from a convenience store." Tom whispered, "Lori, stop it." She ignored him. "So here's my offer. Step down quietly. Let me keep the public face of the company. You keep your fortune, your dignity, and I keep this file sealed." For a long moment, Sheila didn't speak. Then she reached for the envelope, opened it, and flipped through the papers. Every word was true. Every line of her old life, the hunger, the arrest, the night she'd slept on a park bench praying for a tomorrow, printed in cold black ink. She closed the folder gently. "Thank you, Lori." "Blink? So you'll step down." Sheila stood. "No." "What?" Sheila straightened her jacket. "You see, I'm not ashamed of who I was, but I am ashamed of who you've become." Lori's smile faltered. "You're bluffing." Sheila leaned down, her voice barely above a whisper.
You think the world will cancel me because I was poor? They'll celebrate me because I survived. But you'll go down as the woman who tried to blackmail a philanthropist. And that, she tapped the envelope, is a story I'll enjoy telling. She dropped the envelope back on the table and walked away. Behind her, Lori's mask finally cracked. "This isn't over!" she shouted. Sheila didn't look back. "It never is," she murmured. If someone tried to use your past against you, would you hide it or own it? Truth only loses power when you stop running from it. Subscribe if you believe that what you've survived makes you unstoppable. It started with a single headline. Billionaire Sheila Hughes hid criminal past, arrest record surfaces. Within hours, every major news outlet had picked it up. Cable anchors debated her ethics. Twitter hashtags exploded. Hashtag Sheila the Scammer. Hashtag Fraud Billionaire. Hashtag Fake Philanthropy. The same media that had praised her as a trailblazing black entrepreneur now tore her apart. By noon, investors were pulling out. The Hughes Capital stock dropped 19% in 3 hours. Board members began demanding emergency meetings. In the corner office of her downtown headquarters, Sheila stood in front of the glass window, watching the storm outside. The city skyline, usually a symbol of her triumph, now felt like a wall closing in. Her assistant Renee rushed in, face pale. "It's everywhere, Miss Hughes. Someone leaked the documents. Lori must have sold the story." Sheila didn't turn around. "I know." Renee hesitated. "The board wants your statement. They're afraid this will ruin the merger." For the first time in years, Sheila's hands trembled. "Tell them I'll address the press at 4. Renee nodded, her eyes glistening. "You don't deserve this." Sheila finally looked up, her eyes sharp, unreadable. "Deserves got nothing to do with it. The world doesn't like its heroes imperfect." By the time she arrived at Hughes Tower, reporters had flooded the plaza. The same cameras that once begged for interviews now shouted accusations. "Sheila, is it true you were arrested for theft? Did you falsify your identity to gain business loans? Are your philanthropic projects just a cover-up?" Sheila didn't respond. She just walked past them, her chin high, her silence louder than their words. Inside the building, the boardroom was tense. 12 men and women sat around a glass table, their expressions tight with fear and judgment. The chairman, a gray-haired man named Reed, cleared his throat. "Sheila, we respect everything you've done for this company, but public trust is collapsing. We need to protect our assets." She folded her hands. "And what do you suggest?" "Step down, temporarily. Let someone else act as interim CEO until this blows over." There it was, the betrayal dressed as concern. Sheila nodded slowly. "You want me gone to calm investors?" "It's just optics," Reed said softly. She smiled faintly, a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Optics built this company. Truth built me." She stood. "I'll issue my statement myself." That night, Sheila walked through her empty estate at Evermay. The silence was unbearable. The paintings, the chandeliers, the manicured gardens, they all felt hollow. She ended up in the study, sitting before the fireplace, staring at the flames. For a long time, she didn't move. Her reflection flickered in the glass, the billionaire who had once been a homeless girl. She thought of her father, the man who used to tell her, "They can take your money, but not your name." Now even her name was trending for the wrong reasons. She whispered to the empty room, "Maybe this is who I've always been." The word stung. Then she felt something warm brush her hand, Renee's hand. She hadn't even heard her come in. "Miss Hughes," Renee said softly, "you once told me that people only see what's loud. Maybe it's time to show them what's true." Sheila turned toward her, eyes glassy. "And what's true?" That the woman who made it from nothing isn't ashamed of how she started. For the first time in hours, Sheila exhaled, slow, heavy, honest. "You're right," she said quietly.
They want a villain. I'll show them a survivor. Have you ever been defined by your worst mistake, even after you changed your life? Sometimes strength isn't about winning. It's about refusing to disappear. Tell me, what would you do if the whole world tried to rewrite your story? It was a gray Thursday morning in D.C., the kind of day that made even marble buildings look tired. But on every news channel, the same headline scrolled across the screen: Sheila Hughes to address nation live at noon. By 11:30, the plaza outside Hughes Tower was a sea of people: supporters, critics, reporters, protesters. Signs read, "Fraud Billionaire," beside others that said, "We believe in Sheila." Inside the building, Sheila stood alone in the green room, staring at her reflection in the mirror. No makeup artist, no PR team, just her. Her reflection stared back, strong but human. Not the billionaire mogul the world had painted her as, but the girl who once washed her hair in a public restroom sink and dreamed of something better. Her assistant Renee peeked in. "It's time."
Sheila smiled faintly. It's past time. The cameras clicked on. The lights glared hot. The world waited. Sheila stepped up to the microphone. Her pearl gray suit shimmered softly against the backdrop of storm clouds gathering behind the glass tower. She didn't open with a script. She opened with her truth. "My name is Sheila Hughes, but I wasn't always her." The murmuring crowd quieted instantly. "I was born Sheila Johnson. My father was a bus driver. My mother cleaned offices in this very city. When I was 19, I was arrested for stealing groceries. Not jewelry, not luxury, groceries, because I was hungry." She paused, letting the weight of the words settle. "I spent one night in jail. I promised myself it would be the last time anyone decided my value for me. Since then, I'd built a company that employs over 12,000 people. I paid more in taxes than I ever thought I'd earn in my lifetime. And yet," her voice trembled for the first time, not from fear, but conviction. "Until the world still thinks a record defines a person, I don't hide my past. I own it. Because every person who's ever been invisible, broke, or dismissed deserves to know this: you can rise so high they can't see the dirt they threw on you." The crowd was silent. Even the press lowered their cameras. Sheila continued, her tone sharper now. "To those who leaked my story, thank you. You reminded me that I am not a myth. I'm proof. Proof that mistakes don't disqualify you from greatness. They prepare you for it." A soft murmur rippled through the crowd, a kind of reverence. Behind her, Renee stood watching, tears in her eyes. Sheila finished, voice low and steady. "So if anyone still doubts who I am, look around. I'm not just the woman who owns this building. I'm the woman who built it, brick by brick, failure by failure, faith by faith." Then she stepped away from the microphone. No exit music, no spin doctors, just raw truth ringing louder than applause. And then it came. A single clap, then another, then a wave. Soon the plaza roared with cheers, a standing ovation that drowned out every headline that ever tried to bury her. Renee whispered behind her, "You did it." Sheila smiled through tears. "No, we did. Everyone who's ever been told they don't belong, we just changed the story." If you could speak to the person you were before you made it, what would you say? Maybe today's your chance to remind them. Failure isn't final unless you stop showing up. If that truth hit you deep, stay with me, because the best part is still ahead. The next morning, Sheila's speech dominated every major outlet. CNN, "Sheila Hughes redefines redemption." Bloomberg, "A new chapter in corporate humanity." Fox Business, "From mugshot to magnate, America's forgiveness story." Sheila had gone from scandal to symbol in less than 24 hours. The stock price rebounded 11%. Letters poured in from women, men, students, and small business owners across the country. People who'd made mistakes, who'd struggled, who finally felt seen. But one person wasn't celebrating: Lori Benton. She sat in her luxury penthouse off DuPont Circle, phone in hand, face pale. The plan had backfired. Instead of burying Sheila, she'd made her immortal. "Tom," she hissed, pacing the room. "She's being hailed as a hero. They're calling it the Hughes Redemption. She's untouchable now." Tom looked exhausted. "Maybe you should let it go." "Let it go," she snapped. "She humiliated me. She took everything." Tom sighed. "No, Lori, you gave it away. When you let your pride speak louder than your integrity." She glared at him. "Don't you dare lecture me." He met her eyes, calm but resolute. "Then hear this. I'm done. I'm moving out." And just like that, the man she'd controlled for years walked out, leaving her alone with her bitterness and the echo of her own downfall. 2 days later, a charity event was held at the Crystal Room in the Willard Intercontinental, the same ballroom where everything had begun. This time, Sheila was the guest of honor. As she entered, the same crowd that once whispered behind her back now rose in applause. The chandelier shimmered above her like 1,000 tiny blessings. Renee leaned in. "Full circle, huh?" Sheila smiled. "Something like that." As she made her way to the podium, a commotion near the entrance drew murmurs. Lori Benton stood there, looking uninvited but determined. Cameras swiveled instantly, the air thick with tension. Lori marched down the aisle, every heel click a challenge. "Sheila!" she called out, voice tight with forced confidence. The room went silent. Sheila turned slowly. "Mrs. Benton." Lori held her head high. "You win. You turned your pity story into a PR miracle, but don't pretend you're noble. You're a fraud with better lighting." A ripple of discomfort swept through the audience. Sheila didn't flinch. She simply stepped forward. "You know, Lori, when you poured wine on me, I stayed quiet. Not because I was weak, but because I wanted to see who you were when you thought no one was watching." Lori's smirk wavered. "What's that supposed to mean?" She gestured towards the screen behind them. "It means I learned something. You see, this event, this deal, this merger, it wasn't just a business move. It was a test." She nodded to Renee, who tapped a button on her tablet. Behind them, the LED screen lit up with a live video call. The board of directors, investors, and executives from Harrison and Vail. Sheila continued, voice calm but commanding. "Mrs. Benton, I'm not here to humiliate you. I'm here to offer you a job." Gasps filled the room. Lori froze. "What?" Sheila smiled gently. "I'm launching a new division, the Hughes Initiative for Workplace Equality. It's designed to train executives on bias, inclusion, and leadership accountability. And I think you'd be perfect to lead it." The crowd stared, stunned. Lori's mouth fell open. "You're mocking me." "No," Sheila said softly. "I'm giving you the second chance you tried to deny me." The words hit like thunder. Lori blinked, trembling. "Why would you do that?" Sheila looked her in the eye. "Because forgiveness is power, and I have enough of it to share." For a long moment, Lori said nothing. Then, without another word, she turned and walked out, not in defiance this time, but in silence. The audience rose to their feet, the applause deafening. Sheila exhaled, smiling faintly. "Full circle," she whispered again. Renee leaned in, whispering through tears, "You really are something else." Sheila smiled. "No, I'm just someone who remembers who she used to be." Would you have forgiven her? Sometimes revenge feels powerful, but grace changes everything. If you've ever turned pain into purpose, this is your reminder. That's your superpower. 6 months later, Evermay Estate was alive again, not with cameras or scandal, but with purpose. The mansion that once felt like an ivory tower now pulsed with laughter, conversation, and the hum of transformation.
The Hughes Initiative for Workplace Equality had launched officially that morning, and its first leadership summit brought together CEOs, educators, and young entrepreneurs from every corner of the country. In one corner of the garden, a group of college students shared stories of facing bias in corporate internships. Across the lawn, seasoned executives listened, really listened, for the first time. Sheila stood by the terrace, watching it all unfold with quiet pride. Renee joined her, holding 2 glasses of sparkling cider.
"You did it," she said softly. Sheila smiled. "No, we did. I just opened the door. They're the ones walking through it." Renee grinned. "Still, from janitor to billionaire to activist, not bad for one lifetime." Sheila chuckled. "It's funny. For so long I thought the goal was to make it to the top. Turns out the real win was making sure the ladder didn't disappear behind me." Later that evening, as the guests left and the lights dimmed, Sheila wandered into her study, the same room where she'd once cried over a broken past. Now, framed photos lined the walls. Her parents, her first tiny office, the Hughes Capital team, a newspaper clipping of her speech, headline, "From Hunger to Hope." She picked up a photo of herself at 19, handcuffed but defiant. For years, she had hidden it deep in a drawer. Tonight, she set it on her desk, not as a shameful relic, but as a reminder. Her phone buzzed. It was an email notification. She glanced down and froze. From Lori Benton. Subject, "Thank you." She opened it. "Sheila, you probably don't want to hear from you, but that offer you gave me, I accept it. I've been working quietly with your team these last few months, and I'm learning more about leadership than I did in 20 years of business school. You didn't just give me a job, you gave me a mirror. Thank you for showing me what real power looks like. Lori." Sheila sat back, exhaling slowly. A small, genuine smile crossed her face. Maybe miracles don't always come wrapped in mercy. Sometimes they wear heels and pour wine. A week later, Sheila was invited to speak at Howard University. The auditorium was packed with students, future leaders, dreamers, fighters. She stepped onto the stage, her presence commanding yet kind. "I used to think my story was about money. Then I thought it was about power. But it's not about either. It's about worth, the kind no one can give you or take away." The audience hung on every word. "I built my empire from mistakes, and if I could go back and tell that 19-year-old girl sitting in a jail cell one thing, it would be this: you are not your failure, you are your fight." The room erupted in applause. Some students cried, others stood clapping until their palms turned red. When the cheers quieted, Sheila added softly, "And if anyone ever makes you feel like you don't belong in the room, remind them you might just own the building." Laughter and cheers filled the air again. That night, back at Evermay Estate, Sheila stood by the window overlooking the Potomac. The city lights glimmered like stars, and for the first time, she felt still. She wasn't chasing validation anymore. She wasn't proving she belonged. She knew she did. Her past hadn't ruined her. It had raised her. She whispered to the reflection in the glass, "We made it, Daddy, and we made sure others can too." A soft breeze swept through the open window, rustling the curtains like an answer. If you've ever felt underestimated, humiliated, or overlooked, let Sheila's story remind you. You don't have to fight to be seen. You fight to remember who you are. So if her strength moved you, subscribe, not for me, but for the next person who needs to hear it, because someone out there is still waiting for their moment to rise.